Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it always go back a little bit, so I apologize. Thank you for showing up tonight. It's about 6:34, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I do want to make a few comments before we get into the meat of tonight's meeting and discussions, but does everybody have a handout? We want to make sure everybody has a handout. If you don't have one, they're in the back. We're going to be going through some slides and stuff tonight that'll be very valuable for you to be able to see. So I just want to make sure we do that. We're going to try our best not to have an echo in here and try to be clear and concise. So with that, thank you guys for being here, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll turn it over to you guys.
Yeah, if you would, please join me in pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to say a quick prayer the way we begin every meeting in the co-op world, the Pledge of Allegiance and a prayer. So bow with me, please. Father God, thank you for bringing everyone here safely tonight. Father, thank you for the beautiful weather we had today. Father, thank you for our employees, our members, and everyone who works daily to make this cooperative a success, and especially those people who work in the more dangerous areas of this business. Father, thank you for bringing them home safe every night. Father, allow us for all of us to learn something tonight and have good conversation. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
My name is Buck Rich. I'll be the moderator for the meeting tonight. I'm a local rancher, Leaning Oak Ranch, just south of Okemah. Also the president of the County Cattlemen's Association. We're going to start by introducing the panel. First we have Jim Hall, who served on the East Central Board for 10 years, representing Okemah County and parts of Okemah County. Jim and his family have been co-op members for multiple generations. His occupation is a Farm Bureau insurance agent. Larry Harvey has served on the board for 17 years, representing the Beggs, Mound, Slick, Twin Hills, and Okemah areas. He served in the U.S. Army Reserves for 6 years, and he retired after 34 years of teaching BOAG at Beggs. Larry and his family have been co-op members on the same land for multiple generations. Mike Vernon has served on the East Central Board for 10 years, representing the greater Muskogee area. Mike grew up on the co-op lines, moved away during his service for the U.S. Army, and has been a member on the co-op at his own home for 18 years. His occupation is a safety and health director. Dwayne Elam has served as the CEO of the East Central Electric Cooperative for 1 year. Prior to that, he served the city of Wagner for 18 years as utilities manager and city manager. While there, he served for 7 years on the board of the Municipal Electrical Systems of Oklahoma, which serves 64 cities across the state of Oklahoma, including service as the board president. He grew up on the co-op lines and is the third generation in his family to be a member of East Central. Vice President of Finance and Accounting, Teresa Sparks, has been employed at East Central Electric for 19 years with 30 years of total experience in co-op accounting, and has been a member of the cooperative for 12 years. Vice President of Operations and Engineering, Jerome Roberts, has been employed at East Central Electric Cooperative for 22 years, working as a lineman and engineer before moving into a management position. Jerome grew up on the co-op lines, moved away during his service with the U.S. Air Force, and has been a member of the cooperative at his own home for 24 years. Vice President of Member Services, Tamara Hawkins, has been employed at East Central Electric Cooperative for 32 years in multiple member service roles. She has been a member herself for 19 years. So we're going to start with the pre-submitted questions, and we will have time for audience questions at the end. First question is, why have rates increased recently, and what specifically is driving those costs?
I'll take that one first, since this is my home district. I drew the short straw. They made me go first. That's always the hardest, because you really need the crowd to kind of, feed off of a little bit and loosen up, for us to loosen up a little bit. But and if it's better without this, y'all tell me. There you go. Or just take it away from me. If y'all can hear me, I'll just go without. Good? Okay. Somebody throw something at me if not. Basically, how these meetings started is the one on the ground causing all the trouble. Anyway, we're here to talk about tonight, probably the biggest thing on everybody's mind is increased utility costs. I'm gonna cut right to it. If you've been watching the last 5 years, we've been told that electricity costs are going up. They've been telling us that for 5 years. Nothing, can't get away from it. Lots of big national reasons, fuel costs is one of them. I will tell you this, one thing that here in our region we dealt with a lot is federal regulations for our G&Ts. Real quick, on the back of your deal, there's some acronyms. So we tried to stop last time and say them all out, and I think we just confused ourselves more than anybody. But you'll hear terms like G&T, generation, and transmission. Those are the people we buy our power from our G&Ts. But PCA, CCA, all those are on there. But feel free to look at those so that we can just keep right on rolling. But anyway, our G&Ts, y'all remember Storm Uri back in 21? Okay. Our G&Ts had to produce around 10-15% more than at any given time, so that when they're called upon, they can dispatch it right then. Well, after Storm Uri, that thing got into places it never gotten before, and affected a lot of people that had never even seen cold like that. One thing they realized, they didn't have enough reserves, enough standby. So recently, since then, they've made all of our G&Ts, instead of carrying 10-15%, now they got to carry 35% more. Extra. So that was a 20% increase in generation. Well, they have to go build that stuff. That stuff's not laying around. 500 megawatts of natural gas power, about $800 million, bumping $1 billion for 500 megawatts. So, and 5 years ago, that was $500 to $600 million. So, just to kind of show you what that is. Anyway, increase in cost, increased federal regulations, requirements. We tried really hard during COVID not to increase our rates. It was the wrong time to increase rates, so we chose not to. Post-COVID inflation rolls around. That hurt bad. Transformers, wires, poles, everything doubled, if not tripled. That was probably our biggest hurdle. Again, not a good time for our members. We wanted to wait. We said not right now. Now we're to the point where we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. Now, we're trying to figure out ways to make the transition easier, but your PCA, your power cost adjustment on your bill, that comes straight from the place where we buy electricity. That's from our G&Ts. They send that directly. That is ours. The CCA, the consumer cost adjustment, that is a mechanism that we use. We don't work for a profit. Everything we do is to break even. We try and pay the bills, pay the employees, keep the trucks rolling, maintain a reliable system. That's one of our most important things is reliability and safety. But so at the beginning of the year, you set a budget for the end of the year. 25, very, very mild year. At the end of the year, we were 13% below revenue, where we expected revenue to be. Very mild winter, spring, summer, fall. We just kind of sat around waiting for it to get really hot or really cold, and it never happened. So come the end of the year, you got to shore the books up. And that's probably why y'all saw a really high November CCA. Okay? We realized that wasn't probably the best time. We own that. Was not the best time. Since then, we are looking at leveling off those peaks and valleys. I'm going to let our CEO get into more of that later. But we realize it, we're working towards it, but we don't work for a profit. All we try to do is pay the bills, pay the employees, and we kind of got ourselves in a little bit of a bind there by not taking rate when we should have, combined with a very mild 2025. It's kind of the perfect storm on several things, but I'll let somebody else. I know Mike thought of something.
Jim accused me on a lot of things. How many people here are employees at East Central Electric Cooperative? Raise your hand. So everybody else is a customer. I'll just sit right here at this table and have a conversation. It'll be a lot easier than trying to bark out what's going on. Jim addressed that, the PCA and the CCA, and I think it needs to be stated as part of the East Central story that there was a lot of pressure for us to increase our rates in 21, 22 based on the cost of service study. And we as a board, and if you're a board member, raise your hand. We as a board said, look, we're coming out of COVID, we're not going to raise our rates on our members. That's the first thing we said. Coming out of the high inflationary period, we said we're not going to raise our rates. And we got to a point where we needed to balance some costs, so we used the CCA in November. Hindsight's probably 20/20 for us, and we'll take those slices just a little bit easier going forward. There has been a huge increase in demand for electricity across the United States. And if you think about what you heard on the news in the last 4 or 5 years, the war on coal, get rid of coal, get rid of this, get rid of that. Well, that coal is the #1 baseload power that we still rely on. It is the cheapest, most reliable form of electricity out there. And it can be run under tight environmental regulations. I know this because I work at a coal plant right now. There's been this war on coal, and they've basically taken some of that generation out of the kind of the national pipeline. And when they did that, energy kept going up. They kept taking generation out of that, so it made energy spike even further. I can say that there has been a change in the industry. They're looking for ways to, I think, I looked at ours, this slide that we're going to show here in a few minutes. 50% of our power supply right now is through coal generation. And it will continue to be that way for a while, even though there was this ginormous war on coal in the last 4 or 5 years. Now, they're looking to kind of reignite some of these old coal plants. I know the one that I'm at is looking to invest a lot of money to continue using coal into 3030. It's still kind of up in the air, but the demand for power is really, really high. Have you heard the word data center? Anybody heard that word? I can tell you, just where I work, there are 4 or 5 data centers within 35 miles of the place that I work in Pryor, Oklahoma. And they consume a large amount of power. Really, we're going to be unable to provide that power unless we bring some coal assets back on the GNT side. But right now, there's kind of been some things go around out in the social media space that East Central, the reason that our power is going up is because we're providing power to data centers. We don't have any data centers. We don't even expect any data centers to come on our lines. Right now, we're totally focused on taking care of our members and identifying ways to reduce our costs, to drive efficiency, to keep that CCA low. But the CCA, during 2025, we likely should have took a little bit every month, and we basically held zero for 10 of those months. Prior to that, we were in a negative number a couple of months, and that's actually giving money back on the CCA. So we held zero for a long time. I don't know the exact statistics on it.
And if you look up here or on your first page of your second page of your sheet, kind of what's up on the screen, I'll kind of tag team in here with Mike a little bit what he's alluding to. You'll see the dip right there with the CCA. It's when East Central returned $2 million back to the members in 2023. From that standpoint, can you hear me? Still need to go up. Okay, I'll try to talk louder. I apologize for those in front, so I don't want to sound like I'm screaming either. But if you'll look at that chart, it's probably easier to look at in front of you like this than it is same for me. You can see where that dip is. If you'll notice, it's been zero for several years through there. And in all reality, it should have been ticked up along the way a little bit to offset some of the comments that Jim and Mike has just alluded to as well. But as Mike just alluded to, you see in 2025, we have more expenses starting to go out our door than we have revenue coming in. We hope Mother Nature will do her part. Most of the time in the summer, we deal with 10 to 15 days of triple-digit degrees. Think back this summer, how many we had? Not very many. Even into this winter, it's been pretty mild. I can recall very easily Christmas Eve. I was feeding cattle on my ranch in short sleeve shirts and shorts. That don't happen normally in that time of year. So, Mother Nature didn't do her part. We helped and hoped that Mother Nature would come through, and when she did, as Jim alluded to, we had to try to shore up to keep East Central sound and going forward, which is what you see in the spike towards the end over there, when it jumped up to 4 cents. What we did not know and did not anticipate is our GNTs was going to have the same thing. Let me try the mic, see if it helps, just so I can make sure. Does that help a little bit better? Good. I'll try to keep it away so I'm not so echoey. But at the same time, our GNT organizations, which is generation and transmission, such as Okemah and Western Farmers, their power costs went up at that time. And it ended up being about the same amount as what ours was, if you recall that bill at that time, of 4 cents a kilowatt hour from that standpoint. So it ended up being a perfect storm of the worst time coming into that, and that's where you see that spike. If you'll notice since, we've been able to clean things up and shore things up and been able to get some revenue in to help offset the expenses. And even if you'll see right now where it's dropped, and Kaylee, thank you, you're right there at the end, that's where our current bills are right now from the CCA. It's down to 3/100ths of a penny from that aspect. But just to allude to some of that they're talking about, this chart shows everything. The bottom one, I want to point out with the power costs, and this is strictly a pass-through. This is Okemah and Western Farmers. But if you'll notice over here, and this is some of the things that I'm working on internally, so we can instead of being peaks and valleys and going up and down, we're trying to level that out so bills are more consistent. And Tamara alludes to some options that we have for our members that can help do that. But if you'll see, it's constantly, gradually going up. And we're gonna allude to some of the issues that we're facing now, we're gonna continue to face into the future. And it's not just gonna be East Central. It's gonna be PSO, it's gonna be OG&E, it's gonna be every other utility industry. They're facing the same issues we are in regards to that. So I just want to point that chart out, and this is the reason we made sure we had handouts, so everybody could have that. You're welcome to take it home. We will probably be posting some of this as well to our membership on our social media site. Because when I took this job, I told the board I had 3 things in purpose that I planned on doing. That was education, training, and being transparent. And that was not only to the board, that was to the employees, and most importantly, that was to the membership. Because I think you're owed that. And I'm a member first and the CEO second, and that's how I try to always look at things moving forward from that standpoint. If you want to move to the second page, second slide, third slide from that. I'm sorry, I'm just going to jump right into some of this. So if you've got some questions behind it, you can if you want to. I don't want to, I can sit up here and just start rolling with this, but.
Before we get too far along in that, I think we need to be overly clear. Certainly, we have taken measures at the cooperative, and our team have done a fantastic job, not only keeping the power on, but making sure that it's a reliable and robust system. But they're working to reduce those costs by budgeting a little bit more rigidly. But the power costs in the short term, the PCA is going to go up continually. So we have a responsibility as a cooperative to try to bring the CCA down as low as possible to make sure that our members can pay those bills as they're coming in. And I didn't really know this until I got the information from Tamara. I wasn't affected in a big way by the CCA. I realized that my own house doesn't use a whole lot of kilowatt hours. And I saw on my electrical usage the months that my wife turns a portable heater on so her feet will be warm. And while she's working, I know the exact times that she turns it on and how much it costs me on a monthly basis, but for her, I'm willing to do that. I would hope that everybody understands that the PCA is going to go up in the short term. I don't see it changing quickly. It took kind of 4 or 5 years for us to get in this hole. And we're really trying to dig our way out, and it's going to take some more generation to come on to bring that power cost down for every consumer, not just us. It's OG&E, PSO. If you've listened to the news or you watch the news or you read the newspaper, just about all of the IOUs, the PSOs and the OGs had rate increases. And they had rate increases when we did not have rate increases. And they had them because they were trying to have a profit for their shareholders. We didn't have them because we were trying to keep the cost low for all of our membership. And it's really an ideal place for us to be in right now. It's great to have a conversation, but it's certainly important to understand that until there's more generation on, it's going to cost a little bit more money on the PCA, and that's nationally. And data centers do drive that, even though no data centers are on East Central. The loss of some grow loads that we had, that was some revenue that we had coming in that went away when all of the the grow houses disappeared. And as I understand it, they're still going to try to maybe bring those grow loads down even more. If you listen to the State of the State address by Governor Stitt Monday, actually, he thought we should take it to another vote, and that's gonna bring the load down, which will likely help the load across the United States but we're really worried about our members, is the key point.
Let me ask a couple of these questions that you guys are already kind of hitting on. I'm just gonna go ahead and ask a couple. So what can members expect from the increase of power costs that is being pushed from the generation and transmission side? And then what actions are being taken to fix the problems you're seeing and on what timeline? And if there's parts of these questions y'all want to hit on later, we'll go back to them, but I feel like you kind of hit a little bit on all these. And then many of the questions that came in online were from members on fixed incomes who can afford their electric bills as they are now. What is the co-op going to do to keep these problems from getting worse? So just kind of take those questions because you're already hitting on it a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm gonna jump in and address some of that. I mean, we have been going through and tightening our belts of everything that we can right now. At the same time, we've still got expenses that we've got to be able to deal with to ensure that we provide affordable, reliable electric to all of our members from that standpoint. So it's a pretty fine line and a tightrope we're in the middle of juggling right now. But we are cutting expenses internally in a lot of different ways. I mean, we're moving things over to East Central Home Office and the fiber aspect of some of that we've got with a couple of different warehouses elsewhere. We're also performing a cost of service, and you heard Jim allude to this in the beginning of it. Why are we doing that? Well, part of the reason is I want to make sure every member is paying their fair share. And what I mean by that, you don't just take a $10 across the board conversation and just give everybody $10 that increase from their standpoint. I mean, you may have a small commercial or commercial that may need to have a little bit bigger increase versus the 87-year-old lady or mom and dad that's on a fixed income down there that can only afford so much. So we want to make sure we have it equalized out there. Nobody is subsidizing any other rate class. So part of this, what we're fixing to go through is a new cost of service. We're going to look at the rate class. We're going to make sure and analyze the rate class is adjusted appropriately from that standpoint. Some of the increases that we're dealing with, if you'll notice up here, and that's on slide 4, these are increases since 2020. And this is what we're dealing with and trying to maintain good, reliable electricity to our members, but at the same time being able to ensure that we pay our power bills to our suppliers. But if you'll look at the rainbow over there, 76% of our costs right now are fixed. And what I mean by that, they're fixed in the pass-through to Okemah and Western Farmers, our GNT, which is generation and transmission providers. The variable cost is what we're trying to hone in on and tighten even more so and be as efficient and as effective as we can. But some of the things we're dealing with on our side in that 23% right there, 24, I'm gonna round it up, is you see some of the increases that's taken place since 2020 that we're dealing with. Wire per pound has went up 36%. Transformers, almost 100% for transformers. And it used to be a couple of years ago, it was a delay, it's shortened. But depending upon the size of the transformer of how fast you can get it, you used to get one in 9 to 12 months. Some transformers, especially the bigger ones, are pushed out to 16, 24 months. That's 2 years in that regard. Purchase power, that's what I was relying to earlier. There's a slide I'm going to have Kaylee jump to here in a little bit after I get through talking about it. But you see roughly a 50% jump already in our purchase power since 2020. Fleet replacement, same thing with our equipment. We've got to have good sound equipment that gets down the road so when we have an issue with a storm or an outage, our gentlemen and our linemen and men and women can make sure that they can go get your electricity back on as soon as possible. We've got to have good equipment to be able to do that. Poles, 75%. We've got to keep the poles in the air to be able to provide that electricity from that standpoint. And unfortunately, North Mississippi, Tennessee, North Louisiana, some of those states right now, they're dealing real heavily in this issue from that standpoint. So all of that is affecting these overall costs that has got to be addressed. And it's not just East Central that's in this situation. It's everybody that's in the utility industry from an electric standpoint. The other things that we're doing, like I alluded to earlier, is we're tightening stuff up. We're not having near as much of an inventory on certain stuff. Now, poles, transformers, we're going to keep those inventories because if we have a major storm, we can't wait on that coming in. We've got to get it out there to ensure that you guys have electricity up and as soon as possible from that standpoint. Alluding to a little bit of the cost, I want to jump to a couple of pages that's in your slide. It's from our GNTs, so you're going to have to, Kaylee, jump a little ways down here, and I apologize for jumping in there. This is a little bit of what they alluded to earlier with our resources. Here's what I want everybody to understand, and I'm not going to get political. You can form your own opinion on what I'm about to say, but you'll understand this. Prior to President Trump winning the presidential election, we had President Biden. President Biden had an entire different administration and philosophy of energy from that standpoint. They all want to go green, solar, wind, and all that. Well, you get to present day Trump, he is polar opposite from that, and he has an entirely different philosophy in that regards. Coal plants, he wanted to keep the coal plants open as long as he can and everything of generation. You see where the difference of it is up here. You even have hydro in there from that standpoint. But the point I'm trying to make, these GNTs are trying to make 30-year decisions based off of 4-year administrative people in office. That's the reason you're seeing these switches back and forth, and the energy demand is continuing to go up through that process. A little bit to what we're facing from some of our GNTs. Kaylee, if you'll jump to the slide with Associated and Western.
This is what we have.
We don't have the slide in, we just got the handout. Let me see if I can find that page. Can you guys look for that page for me? It's in your handout. I'm going to address it just a little bit, but this is what we're facing for 2026. The article, yes. Thank you. Catherine, they do have a copy of this, correct? Okay. With Associated, balancing affordability and reliability for the future. This is 2026 cost of service and long-range financial forecast. And there's 5 key takeaways from this. This is a GNT that we get 90% of our electricity from. I'm not going to go through all those topics on there. We'll provide, you guys that's got it in here, we'll also provide it to our membership through social media, etc. from that standpoint. But look at those. These are the issues that East Central's facing. That is 100% of the pass-through costs that we're talking about in regards to the PCA. Also, just recently, everybody can remember how cold it was here this last week. Okay? The snow on the ground. Gas markets for this week, and this is dated, well, I don't see the date on it. January 28th. Gas markets for this week rise from $2.22 to $10.76 over a 4-day period. You also have this in here with the CEO from Western Farmers, Gary, addressing the cost of what gas prices have went up and the fuel that they had to read through. Please read through that and understand this is the challenges that we're facing as well. So I don't want to get into a whole lot of topics because I could just spin off of that, but I do want to get back to some of the questions because I know we got some questions from members.
What all goes into building a reliable electric system?
I'll take that one. Our system, it really starts with engineering. Our minimum standards come out of the National Electric Safety Code. We design our line to withstand Mother Nature. We have to, in this area right here, we are in a heavy icing area. So we have to design line to withstand a ½ inch of ice. We also design our line, we strategically place reclosers and breakers throughout the system that'll for fault isolation. We We also we have that, the National Electric Safety Code is the minimum standard. At East Central, we do have a little bit higher standards in some areas. Some areas we'll put a little bit bigger, thicker pole in, and we also add, our spans are a little bit shorter than what they call for, and that's just to kind of beef our system up a little bit. We work with an outside engineering firm, and they do our 4-year work plan. These work plans, they lay out projects. We discuss with that engineering firm where we're seeing like growth in certain areas. If we're having issues like voltage is too low, we have projects laid out by year for 4 years to upgrade those areas, whether we need to put up bigger wire, put in capacitors or regulators and so on. We work with our G&Ts, like seeing Okemah, Western Farmers. We have a meeting with Okemah once a month, and we talk about where our system is growing, where the capacity is. Like right now, really and truly what we say is Tulsa is moving south. So we have a lot of growth up in that area, and we'll give them a long-range forecast, and that way we can see if we need to upgrade a substation or even add a new substation in some cases. And this stuff is planned years in advance. Right now, I believe it takes about 5 years to get a substation transformer, and those, last we heard, they're running about $20 million for a substation transformer. So this stuff is planned years in advance. Building it's one thing, maintaining it is something different. We have approximately 148,000 poles in our system. RUS, Rural Utility Services, say that we need to inspect 10% a year. Last year, we had been on a 9-year plan just to try to catch up, but last year we inspected almost 18,000 poles. We had about a 6% reject rate on that, which is not bad. We also changed out a little over 1,500 poles last year on the system, and that's going to be a continuous cycle. As long as the co-op's alive, those poles will have to be changed out. And they can be changed out from anywhere from, a lot of them, you'll see some that are rotten, woodpecker damage. You'll see some that's been hit with lightning. All of those have to be changed out. We also, one of the most important things we do is clearing right-of-way. And I can't stress this enough, but our right-of-way is, we're on a 5 to 6 year cycle of cutting, trimming, spraying right-of-way. After our line is cut and cleared, we normally follow up with spray probably about 2 years later. And I feel it's very important that we allow, or our members allow us to cut and trim, and especially spray. It's a lot more cost effective and a lot cheaper to spray a tree when it's 5 foot tall than to cut or trim it when that thing is 30 foot tall. It just costs a lot more money at that point. So if we can take care of that stuff when it's small, it's a lot cheaper on us as members. Can you turn, okay. This is some of the, what we did in 2025. You can see there how many miles we cut. What we spent was $4.1 million in right-of-way, and that's about $200,000 shy of what the budget. So it come in about $200,000 cheaper than the budget.
Jerome, were those 1,500 poles that we swapped out part of a storm, or that was just part of the inspection?
No, they was a little bit of everything. They was almost during all the storms, the spring storms that we had last year, we had close to 200 poles break during them storms, and that's included in that. Vehicle accidents is included in that, and some of those bad poles, those reject poles are included in that. So, I know y'all seen probably on the news what's happening out in Nashville, Mississippi, in that area. You know, I seen where Nashville had pulled millions of dollars out of their right-of-way budget, and you can see what happened to them. They're in a lot of trouble over there right now. So right-of-way, I can't stress enough how important it is for us to keep the lines clear of trees and so on. We sure don't want to end up like they did out there. So, and that's kind of a high overview of the operations.
Go ahead and move to the next question. How does,
I was gonna say a few words there.
Yeah.
I know on January 25th, my house is 0 in the morning. And today, like it's 68 degrees, but, how many in here lost electricity? I say, how many in here lost electricity during this last 2 weeks? I think that shows kind of what the reliability of our system is. And the only place that we would have 0, except over your area where there's a substation went
The
down.
fuse, I think.
A fuse. But now, I'm gonna brag on our co-op and our employees. You know, we keep the electricity on best as we can. And you know, if a snake or a squirrel or some truck driver or somebody, if they hit a pole, we can't do that, or Mother Nature. But other than that, we do a good job, and we as a board got more aggressive on the right of ways where they wouldn't be a limb. And you know, I'm just going to talk a little bit about safety during these storms and everything. Gary, how long has it been since we've had an accident with our employees? You recall?
One late 25, before that, it was 3 years.
Okay, did y'all hear that? So, anyway, our employees that are out here fixing this electricity whenever it's off, they're trained. We spend money on that as a board. We train them, and also we train them good, and we pay them good. So everything we're talking about is more expenses. So, but these guys, the linemen, I see several of them back there, and those in the side, but you know, they go out in weather. We're in there where it's 70 degrees in our house, and they're out there in extreme conditions. They're out there working when it's 0 and 100 degrees, and got all the uniforms on and everything. So I think that we as a board are spending money, but we think that we're spending it wisely and to help our system and help keep the members with electricity. And like I tell my wife, I think we're buying comfort sometime other than buying electricity. So she likes it being pretty warm.
how does fiber play a role in the cooperative's finances, and are we paying for services through our electric?
Yeah, I might just start out on this and tell you, in 2018, our CEO come to us and said, as a board, said, have y'all ever thought about bringing fiber to other members? And of course, some of us hadn't really heard of it. Some of these younger guys, they knew all about it. But anyway, we've had several meetings back in 2018. And I remember we discussed it, and like the first meeting, there was one or two guys that came, and they brought examples of cable, kind of like an extension cord. And shoot, inside that extension cord, you know, I thought it was copper or aluminum, but it was fine hairs what do you call that? Fiber, okay. That's how small, but that size of my finger, there was how many pair? 144 pair. Now then, you can think I hadn't that much hair, so you can't do. But anyway, there's 144 pair in there. We hadn't used all this yet. You know, we're offering the fiber and then we have the telephone. But some co-ops have the TV, but we did not get into that. But what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of fiber left up there. And someday I probably won't see that, but I don't know, but something else is gonna come along where that fiber that's run in front of your house is gonna be used for something. And that's gonna be, we've already got it right there. And we did a lot of studying and research and everything. We sent out surveys to the members, and every member wanted it, and we discussed it a lot, and we decided that we was gonna run fiber to every member. And we did that. We did it, we're supposed to do it, in 6 years, and we did it in 5 years. We got more aggressive on that because other co-ops were starting to do it. We didn't want to lose our contractors. We wanted to take it to the members because they wanted it. I have heard very small complaints on the fiber. And the only fiber complaints I was getting is, when am I going to get it? When am I going to get it? We started down at Eufaula, and then we took it ended up over in White's at Bristol area. But all of our members now have fiber. So, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to turn it over to Jim and tell you how we financed everything. Got the money.
Yeah. On the finance side of it, they might unplug me there. Just to tell you how the two work together, basically is what it is. Of course, we got a lot of grants. That helped a lot. Started coming in monthly up front. But another side of this that doesn't get talked about enough is whenever we did this, part of the reason we even considered it was because this makes a big ring, a big fiber smart ring all the way around our entire electrical system. Okay? And I'm not as technical as Jeremy could be on this and a lot of those guys. But basically, we're working towards a smart self-healing grid. So, everybody out there wanted internet, high-speed fiber internet. But one of the reasons we even considered this was because it was going to prop our grid up, make it stronger, make it self-healing, shorten outage times, maybe even make it safer for some of those guys, in the trucks and weather like this we just had. So, I say that to say, yes, the fiber build affected and has some play in the finances of what the electric bill is at your house. I'm not going to say that it doesn't. But we did exactly what the members asked. It was a good move. But like any new business, there's, that first 7 years is, you're tightening your belt, you're doing all you can just to get by, and the times will come when the fiber and our subscribers, will have that project paid for. But in the meantime, yes, there's some strain there, and not going to pretend that there's not. Now, we have no intention, out there on social media, people said, we'll sell it. Well, here's my opinion as one member. These companies didn't want to come to Okemah. They didn't want to come to Ofuskie. They didn't want to come to New Yaka to provide fiber internet. We did it the same way we did 85, 90 years ago when they wouldn't run electricity to New Yaka. We're doing it with the fiber. So I don't know why we would build something that will be profitable, that will make a lot of money for its members someday. Why do you sell it? Why would you want to sell it in year 5? When, yes, it's hard times, but why would you want to give up then? Just my opinion. If you as a member have a different opinion, come tell us. And I promise you, before we did something that extreme, we'd survey our members. We'd ask them what they thought individually. So anyway, long story short, and I know Mike's chomping at the bit over there.
COVID. What did COVID do?
Oh gosh, yeah, this started.
Work from home.
Yeah, this started during COVID. Larry mentioned we sped up. The only reason we sped up is because our members, our phone was ringing off the hook. Get to us now, get to us now, get to us now. COVID, what happened? Everybody stayed home. Okay, everybody worked from home. Kids had to stay home. Kids couldn't get educated. Rural kids couldn't get educated. So that was, gosh, that's the main reason we sped up, honestly. But what happens when you speed up a build where you're touching, every inch of something that it took 85 years to build, the expenses go up. So, but that was one of our main reasons, and we did it because our members wanted it. So,
Jim talked about the self-healing grid, and I think that's a great question.
You guys talked about the 10-year grant. The grant was over a 10-year period. Can you specify that?
yes. Yeah, there's a slide for that. Kelly will bring it up. Yeah, here's our grant money. Now, 22 million, 9 million, roughly 8.9, 8.5 million. These are our different grants, subsidies. They've started paying out. You can see we already received some right there. Here's when they will end on out into the future. Those sound like big numbers. Guys, we're probably, Jeremy can give us.
CAF about 98% complete.
Yes, CAF is 98% complete. But this is, 40 some million. This was a $150 million project, at least. So I'll let Jeremy talk a little bit more about the, oh, looky there, he got the wireless.
Yeah, so we, the board looked at doing fiber, but then they made the decision, they had the opportunity to pursue CAF grant or a CAF subsidy with the federal government. And once they were awarded that grant is in 2018, at the end of 2018 is when they voted to move forward. They wanted to secure that funding to have the federal government help pay for the investment. We had another opportunity in 2020 and 2021 to secure another subsidy through the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, and we were able to secure another $9 million, almost $9 million through that opportunity. We have built to all of our members across our system, and just we've talked about it a little bit, that we're repeating history. What we did 85 years ago in bringing electricity to the farms. Those telecom providers, and I used to work for one, I worked for 15 years at another telco, and we built fiber right through, probably right past your house, into downtown Morris, downtown Okemah, and we would pass your house and not serve you because that telco did not care about the residential consumer. They only cared about the business subscriber and the profit that they could make in those business corridors. They would serve you if you were the mayor or on the city council, or there was some you were a VIP and it was politically beneficial for them to, but they wouldn't serve anybody else. Nobody else was gonna come and build these out. And it is an investment over a long term, and it does pay back over the long term.
I think really the big message for me, I don't need that thing, it makes me nervous. The big message that I learned from Echo Link that has really kind of driven home the fact that we're serving members with what they want, and doing it at a real competitive rate. And if we weren't doing it, nobody else would do it. And it only makes sense for us to do it because we already have the poles and the wire going to your house anyway. So we might as well just throw something else up on there and bring it to the members' houses. And I'll tell you, there's been a great demand for it in my area in Muskogee. I'll tell you that others that are on other types of fiber that are in town would rather come out to my farm and work because they have better service through Echo Link, and I think that's remarkable. And it's a testament to it's a testament to our entire organization. All of our employees at East Central care about the members, and they demonstrate that every day. I was at Walk this week, and I'm not good at hearing, primarily because I can't hear out of one ear. But when I'm able to hear conversation, I heard some really good conversations, and it was all about how can we serve you and how can we better support your needs. And I will tell you, thanks to the East Central employees and EcoLink employees. EcoLink is owned by East Central. That's how it is. And I don't know what all EcoLink owns, but they pay a fee to East Central to operate. And here you go.
Yeah, so East Central owns all the fiber on the poles, and they own the fiber huts. And then we have electronics inside the fiber huts, Echolink does, and we also own the equipment inside the house. We pay a lease to East Central for the use of the fiber optics from the hut to the house. And that's paid over $50 million since the project has started.
But it's the same family. Same family, employees. Matter of fact, quite a few, not all, but quite a few of our East Central employees became Echolink employees. So one big happy family, all owned by you, the members.
I'm gonna say this on a personal note on this Echolink. I got two siblings, a daughter and a son, and one of them was able to move back from Arkansas and get on East Central line. One of them moved back from Oklahoma City and living in rural beds on East Central line. And this was because of Echolink. My son worked full-time out of his house, my daughter during the COVID, and they couldn't find anything. They tried hot spots and all this. They'd be in a form or something and one of them would lose everything that they had. And then I got a neighbor that noticed he was all the way kind of around the house and asked him what he done. He said, I work from the house from Houston. I don't understand that either. But his job's in Houston and he's living by me.
I ain't interested in nobody moving next to me. Unless it's my child. I'll have my child back, but I don't really want any neighbors out of my house.
Roger, you want to get some more questions?
Even though they're trying to.
My next question is kind of already covered, so let me know if we need to just keep going. Where are we on receiving fiber grants and subsidies that we're supposed to pay for this? Okay.
Yeah, that was there.
And the next question, which brought up earlier, so let me know if you want to keep moving. What can members expect from the increase of power costs that is being pushed from the generation and transmission side?
I think we talked about that pretty extensively. Is that one of the last questions?
No, I've still got two more.
There is one thing that we might want to jump in there. It's in a slide too. Sandy, I'll let you take this.
But I can't move very far here. So one of the things that we deal with on our power bill is demand. And it is one of the most difficult things for the average member to understand what is demand. And so we create this graphic, it's on your slide 8, that kind of talks about demand. I look at demand kind of like a vehicle. When you're driving down the road, at a nice steady pace, that's your kilowatt hours. When you go to pass that semi and you romp on it, that's demand. What this is the don't tower your power is when you turn everything on in your house within an hour's time frame, that peaks our demand. What we need everyone to do is spread that out. And so demand is a big piece of our power bill. We do not bill our members residentially demand. But there's a lot of utilities that are starting to bill members demand. We actually have your demand. We now register demand, and we'll be happy to give that to you. It's been a surprise to me to see the demand on a house. It's a lot higher than we would think. But that demand piece is massive to our power bill, and also to generation. So it's important to spread out when you turn big appliances on, because that helps keep those peaks and valleys down that hit that power bill. The one thing about our power bill is when we hit a demand, let's say when it got really, really cold a few weeks ago, that peaked demand at the power company, the generation and transmission, we pay that peak demand for 12 months, even if we do not hit it as a system again. So you see a lot of utilities say, hey, bring back your power, pull it back, rotate what you're doing. They're trying to bring that down. This right here, one of the questions we have a lot is, I've changed nothing in my house. I've kept my degrees at 70 degrees. I even had a member the other day say, you can't tell me that because it gets colder, my house is going to use more when I don't touch my thermostat. His question is exactly what we get all the time, because it's hard to understand. I'm not touching my thermostat. What that is called a degree differential. So you look over here in the wintertime, when it's 20 degrees outside and you leave your house at 70, you're asking your home to stay 50 degrees warmer than it is outside. How your home responds to that has a lot to do with the home itself. How well insulated is it? How well are your windows? All of this other stuff that goes into energy efficiency. Regardless of how energy efficient it is, you're still asking your house to stay 50 degrees warmer than it is outside. A few weeks ago, I woke up in the morning, it was 2 degrees. I'm asking my house to stay 68 degrees warmer than it is outside. So yes, you're going to use more power. On the flip side, in the summertime, and it's 70 degrees in your house because you want to keep the thermostat the same, and it's 90 outside, there's a 20 degree differential. So a lot of people will tell us, why does my house use more in the winter? You usually have a much bigger degree differential, unless you've got gas and electric or propane. But if you think about it, if you're gas or propane, when does your gas bill go up? When do you fill your propane tank up? The degree differential is massively different. And so on this slide 16 in your handout, there's a couple QR codes that kind of take you to where some of this backup data is. But that is very hard for the average member to understand. But weather outside highly affects your usage.
That's a great answer.
While members are concerned with rising cost adjustments, they also have concerns about kilowatt hour usage. If it is being read accurately and if the meters can be trusted, what information can you share about that?
Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about our system. We have what's called a PLCC, Power Line Carrier Communication System. What that is the power line is carrying your meter reading back and forth from the office, okay? There are two things, or two ways we're reading your meter. The first one, thank you. The first one is when we actually physically call your meter. That's what we call our midnight or hard read. I liken that to the odometer on your car. Regardless of how many miles you drove, that odometer is keeping the master mileage. The hard read that we send a signal and ask for that reading, we have a 99% read accuracy on that hard read. That's what we use to bill you. The other reading that we get, we're not calling the meter is calling us. It is sending your hourly, what we call interval readings, to our system. Those are more like the trip log on your car. And sometimes we lose communications as it's coming up the line. I look at the hard reads, a landline phone, the readings coming from your meter is like a cell phone. Things can disrupt it. There's actually in your handout, there's some stuff that talks about these meters and what causes communication issues. Things like harmonics, EV chargers, pump jacks, welders, lots of stuff can interfere with it as it's coming up the line. Even a tree slapping the line. It may not blip your power, but it could cause a loss of communication. What those hourly readings are used for is your information. And we put it out in our Smart Hub app. We do not use those to bill you. It is strictly for your information. And so one of the things that we have in our Smart Hub app, which is on slide 13, is the ability to go out there and look at your daily usage. And one of the questions we get asked a lot is, well, what are those little stars on top of the little lines there? East Central does not hide if we've lost communications. We want you to know if we estimate one of those interval reads. So our system will take all those readings, put it in our meter data management system. Our meter data management system does what's called a VEE, validate it, and if it's not valid, estimate it and edit it. So let's say, we got a good reading at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5, 6 p.m., something hit the line and we don't have that reading. Our meter data management system is going to take a look at that and go, okay, what do they normally run at 6 p.m.? What was the 2 midnight reads and the difference between those? And it's going to estimate what they think you used at 6 p.m. So, and we don't hide that. We want you to know that there's a missing reading. So the other thing we do is we go back 3 days every single day and try to recover those readings because your meter holds the data. So every day we're bringing in 3 days worth of readings. So sometimes you'll see the reading change if you happen to have looked at it the day before and it had a star on it and then all of a sudden it changed. We try our best to recover the readings so you have as best information as you can. Another thing that this chart does is a lot of people miss this little, it's like a circle with an eye in it. That right there, if you're playing with your mobile app, if you push that button, it will flip and give you a summary and detail of what that chart is. So you see over here the summary, this particular day, which was 51 kilowatt hours, it tells me the high kilowatt hour usage I had was at 7 a.m. I'm saying me because I think this is my data. Low, 1 kilowatt hour at 3 p.m. and the average, and that's my total. Then you can turn around and ask for the detail. The detail will show you those usages. Now sometimes we're missing a weather thing, or there's missing a reading. But for the most part, it's trying to tell you every hour what we used. And the most important thing is on this page, there is a disclaimer that says, we do not use these to bill you. It is just for your information. And it's a wonderful tool if you're trying to figure out why you're using power, where is it coming from. But it's definitely not an unflawed system. But we try our best to get those readings to you so you can use this tool and see how you're using power.
Well, you took care of the last question to a T, so I think we can just skip straight to the audience questions.
I do want to point one more thing out on the next slide. We get this question a lot and we've seen it on social media, so I just want to point this out. If you can see here, this is the landing page over on this side. This is slide 14. The landing page is saying there's a $296 bill due on February 15th. So a lot of people will see that and go, oh my gosh, my bill is $296. What this app does, and it's a third-party company that we use, it takes a total of all of your electric meters. Well, East Central, like a lot of co-ops, all of a sudden are doing fiber. It's looking at that bill as well. So you have to hit this view detail, and you get this second screen that shows you, there's on top is the electric bill, and then toward the bottom is the fiber bill. Well, you have to actually click on them, and then it'll tell you the electric bill was $231, and the broadband bill was $65. So it's important that we get this question a lot. People are like, oh my gosh, my house run $800. Well, that particular person that called in has 3 meters, 2 houses, one their daughter lives in, their house, their barn, and then they had 2 internet services. So that kind of scared them. So we understand that, and we've asked our third-party company to try to fix this so it's a little easier to see. But if you do use your mobile app, definitely hit the view details, and that will let you see what is actually each bill. Thank you.
If anybody in the audience has a question, just raise your hand, stand up, something, and we'll come to you.
You mentioned self-healing system. Please explain that. Self-healing?
Yeah, I mentioned it, but I'm going to let the professional ones explain it to you a little bit more. Real quick, one thing. Remember she said how these readings aren't exact. If it's all fiber, internet connected, I mean, it'll be immediately.
Future metering systems that are being tested now are fiber.
Yeah.
So the potential of the newer meters in the future will have a lot more data.
But that's just one example. Jerome can tell you about this.
Yeah, the self-healing system that we're trying to stand up right now, we have a special, what we call SCADA breakers. A SCADA system is, well, I don't know if it's in that here or not, but it's a system that we use in the office that we can flip breakers on and off that's in the field from the office. But we're right now deploying those breakers throughout the system, and what that'll do is we have some lines that tie together from different substations, and let's say a piece of that line goes off. Well, these breakers will communicate with one another through the SCADA system, and it may isolate that one piece of line. Instead of having, say, 500 people out of power, it will have maybe 100 people out of power. So these breakers, one might open up, these others might close in and backfeed a portion of that line, and without having a person out there. We will have to eventually send somebody out there to get that one piece of line on that's been isolated, but it will be able to get more people back on quicker on its own. Yes, all of these breakers that I'm talking about, the reclosers, they are connected to fiber, and throughout the whole system, these breakers, we can also get information off of it. We can see what the voltage is out there. We can see how much amperage is out there, and so on. And that's all read through our fiber infrastructure that's out there.
I'm assuming if you can isolate a broken line and reroute everyone around the break, then
Yeah.
that also saves money and overtime, not having to send out technicians at night.
Mm-hmm. Yes. That's what that system would do. It would isolate that. It would see where the fault's at, isolate it, and then backfeed and keep that piece of line isolated. Like I said, we would have to send somebody out there to fix the fault, but it would get everybody else back on until the lineman can get out there and fix the issue. Yes.
Yeah, as an example, say a car was driving down the road this last week with icy conditions and hit an electric pole. Took the electric pole down, the pole fell over into tree limbs, caused a fault and all that. When your self-healing grid is fully stood up in a smart grid aspect, what it will do is it'll send information down through the fiber aspect, trigger all these different breakers and stuff into that, and backfeed that electricity back around. It will only isolate that certain section where that pole is broke. So what it does, it will send a signal back into our SCADA system and tell us exactly where it is. That short distance is all that's going to be out, so everybody else will still be back up. So it alludes to what Jerome's talking about versus you might have had 50 people out on one circuit before, now you only just have 10 people in an isolated area because the other 40 just come right back up through that SCADA system, and that is due and accomplished through the fiber system, and that's part of the ring that we was talking about earlier in the self-healing grid. And that's what we're working towards and going to be fully standing that up, and that is absolutely a benefit of the fiber system that East Central has through the subsidiary of EchoLink. So don't forget that. That is a valuable piece of mechanism into the future for reliability, and it also will help cut down on wearing our linemen out. They can be able to stay home with their families more often and stuff of that nature. But yes, they still will have to go out there to address that pole that's been broken and everything else to get those other team members back up.
I'm not sure I need this mic. I don't really have a question. I've got a question or two, but I got a comment. You had a slide up there a while ago with the, I guess I do need the mic. Thank you. Right away clear. Now, I live down in Beard. I've got about a half a mile of distribution runs up. I don't have a lot of property, it's just narrow and long, but I've got a half a mile distribution up there. The crew down there that cleared that right away last year, I believe it was, that's the best I ever seen anybody clean one up. I mean, whoever that was, keep on using them. And I mean, they had some big rigs out there, and a lot of people don't understand why they got to cut so wide, but I understand that totally. And a couple of more things. About 2.5 years ago, I bought a Generac, and I've used that thing about 2 hours in 2.5 years, except when it tests on. So somebody's doing a pretty good job out there. I spent $14,000 on this thing though, and it's not really paying for itself. But anyhow, it's nice to have. Well, the other thing is, I noticed up there on one of your slides you had a cost of, I think 2,000 kilowatt hours, and cost of like 12 cents, 12.2 cents a kilowatt hour. Yeah, that right there. Now that kind of rings home to me, and I'll tell you why. In 1976, and yes, I was there, but in 1976, I remember being really proud of 6 cents kilowatt hour. We doubled that, but in the same year, in 1976, I went into Quick Pick, and milk was 50 cents a gallon, and so were Marlboros. I quit smoking. That's the reason I remember this, okay? I quit smoking because I could buy milk for my kids for the same price I was buying cigarettes. Well, today milk is what? Somebody have to tell me. It's about $5 a gallon. So relatively speaking, I don't have a problem with 12.2 cents a kilowatt hour myself, because everything else is, I think somebody's doing an awesome job out there. A lot of Sparks needs a raise, I'm sure.
You know, I do want to make a comment off that, and thank you, sir, for those comments. We appreciate that. I mean, we're trying to do the right thing for the right reasons, but I do want to point out a few things on this slide as well, if you look at it. There's a difference of 2,000, 4,000, and 6,000 kilowatt hours. And you also see below, you see the energy charge, the power cost adjustment, and the consumer cost adjustment. Here's where I want to point out really, really quick. If you'll notice, and 2,000 kilowatt hours, a power cost adjustment of $60. I'm just gonna round numbers off. And a consumer cost adjustment of just $6. When you double that, what takes place next? Everything falls and it goes up. So your power cost adjustment now just went from a $60 conversation to a $120 conversation. Same thing followed with the consumer cost adjustment. Go again to 6,000 kilowatt hours. Now you're at $181 in power cost adjustments and $18. I say that to say this. The more conservative you can try to be, the more you can allow us to come out and help do an energy audit for you, and we will do that free. We want to help our members. The more that we can help to do this, the more it helps that power bill, and the more it helps that consumer cost adjustment and the power cost adjustment. And I just alluded to earlier in the meeting tonight about what these costs are going up. We have another cost increase coming this April 2026. It's in this slide, in your package you got tonight from that standpoint. So just understand, it's all relevant to the kilowatt usage and how much you use, which goes back to the slide earlier that Tamara was talking about and trying to make a 50 degrees difference versus 20 degrees difference in the amount of energy that any consumer uses.
Does anybody else have a question? If not, I've got one for him.
Well, the cost of adjustment went up so high. Is it gonna continue every time? What I'm saying is, it's not just a one-time deal, it's every month from here on out.
Not like that.
Well, there's two of them. There's a PCA and there's a consumer cost. If you could differentiate between which one, ma'am, it might help.
My bill, it went way high that one month.
So you're referring to the consumer cost adjustment, yes.
Yes.
And that's what Jim was alluding to earlier in the deal. So if you'll notice, it's come back down, and that's us trying to control those expenses. That's us trying to make up the revenue difference of the expenses for the year, and Mother Nature didn't come. We do not ever intend to see that happen. I'm doing everything I can. All the employees internally and staff at East Central are doing what we can to ensure that that don't happen.
Well, I understand everything going up, but will it level off? I mean, instead of having a huge bill, can we make it like, you know, instead of $100 a month, can you make it like $30 over 3 months?
Yes, ma'am, and that question has been asked several times, and that is part of what we're trying to do, where it is more leveled out so we can get away from these peaks. Just like this right here with the peaks and valleys, I would rather see a constant flow versus peaks and valleys, and that peak is exactly what you're talking about, and we fully hear you.
And the top one, this is the top one is the CCA, and that is what we can control. The bottom one being the PCA. Look at that thing. Looks like a snake. That is what comes directly from our G&Ts, back flows right through us to you. We're actually looking at a way to smooth that out also. Do some predicting, working with our G&Ts. Dwayne came from the municipal world, okay? He was president of the board at GRDA. It's been very interesting having somebody from outside of the co-op world come in because, you know, a proven leader in the industry, but not necessarily a co-op CEO. So it's been really cool to see things in a different way. And he's come up with things, and we're going to turn him loose on these GMTs here before long, and see if there's not a way that we can level that off. Even though it's pass through, it still is like this. So we're hoping to work on both of those. The CCA, yes, we can control that. Now, we have another really mild year, which we haven't started off that way, obviously, for January, but nonetheless, we are definitely going to watch that closer and avoid those peaks at all costs.
Jim, you might mention, Jim.
Yes.
Individuals can have their bills accurate.
Yes.
And I'll jump into that because that's what I was about to do, so thank you for that comment. East Central also has what is referred to as we used it in the uni world as well, but it's an AMP plan. It's an average monthly plan. And what that is instead of having your electric bills that might be $120 in October when the weather's mild, nobody's using electricity with air conditioner, and they're not having to use the heater much. But you get into January like this last week, and the heaters are staying on, constantly going, and everything's taking place, and that electric bill might be $350. What that average monthly bill does is it takes an average of all that billing, and you have a more constant bill that you can help budget by from that standpoint. So you get away from the peaks and valleys, and you're able to have a consistent budget bill going forward. And Tamara, I don't know if you want to jump into this, because I know you deal with this all the time, but that's the basis of what that will do. And if you haven't called the co-op and explored that, I would highly recommend you do that, because it will help your budgeting aspects, especially through what we're fixing to have to deal with for the next 3 to 5 years in the utility industry. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is not something that is just affecting East Central. This is something that's going to affect every utility company in the United States. I don't care if it's a co-op, I don't care if it's a municipality, and I don't care if it's PSO or OG&E. The same conversation is affecting everybody. I do want to make one comment if there's no others. Do we maybe wrapping up?
He's got a question.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch from moderator to member. So I'm currently in new construction on a house. In order to get the meter, we had to pay all the construction and everything. The amount that I had figured after talking with the engineer was quite a bit different than the number when my wife went to pick up the meter. So she called me, and I asked her to ask for an itemized receipt or quote, so that I could see where either I figured wrong or there was a mistake. She was denied that by 3 different people. So why can I not get an itemized receipt? I ended up kind of calling in some favors and ended up with an itemized receipt or quote. And there I was being charged for the trench that I was going to dig myself. So I'd like to know why I can't get an itemized receipt unless I kind of backdoor it. And then why am I being charged for a service that was not performed?
Yeah, as far as an itemized receipt, when our engineers engineer a job, I will say that the rates and the material costs in the system right now are not up to date. So when they're pulling that labor charge, they're taking that right out of the contract with our contractors. So it sounds like you had some underground work done. They took the current rate out of the contractor's contract and applied it to what you had done out there. As far as digging your own trench, our contractors, they will get paid for it. They still have to hook the conduit up, run the wire, connect everything, and so on. We do have a rock charge, and that could be added on too, if they encounter rock. But as far as that trench charge goes, there's still a lot of work that they have to do, and that's why they will charge a trench charge, and that's a pass-through cost to through us. We don't get anything out of that. That is the charges that we charge members is what we get charged. So that's just a straight pass-through cost. Nobody's making anything off of it except contractor.
Okay. Well, in my case, there was going to be a rock charge, which is why I was going to dig my own trench, because
it probably would have saved you money.
Well, and that's what, whenever I talked to the engineer about it and asked him, what the cost difference was going to be, he said whether I dig the trench or not, it's going to be the same price for the trench.
Yes.
Which, then when talking with the subcontractor, because I said if I got to pay for it, y'all can dig it. So when he came out and told me, he's getting paid by the foot, not a total on that trench.
They get paid, all the underground contractors, they get paid a minimum. And I don't know what it is right now, say $650. That includes 100 foot of trench, which includes the pipe, wire, installation. Anything over that is an extra charge, and I'm not sure what it is right now, but anything over 100 foot adds on to that. And rock charges, if like I said, that's just a straight pass-through cost for us. If they have to rent equipment and so on to build that or dig the rock, that would be a straight pass-through charge. So.
Is the engineer here? I highly recommend you, Jerome, and this gentleman talk right after this, just to clarify.
And I agree with that. Then you can get outside and you can have a little conversation into that aspect. I will say as a CEO, I apologize you didn't get any cooperation from that standpoint, and that's something that is not normal.
Any other questions? Back to moderator.
No moderating duties for you here on out.
Does anybody else have a question? If not, I don't want to keep everybody all night here, but we'll stay around and answer as many questions as long as anybody's got any from that. I do thank everybody that come out tonight. We're going to continue to do this into the future, even after we get through all these forums. We are still going to continue to do stuff of this nature with myself and the executive staff. We're going to go throughout the territory. We're going to be launching things. Come sit down. Come ask us questions. Come get to know your co-op. Because what I want to do, if you guys would please just bear with me just a minute before you get up and start going, is I want to make sure that we're transparent to you guys. And I was raised in an era where your word and your handshake was better than any contract. That's my family values, and that's the reason I'm standing up here doing what I'm doing tonight and continue into the future. And you are our members, just like I'm a member. And I have a valid concern and a duty to make sure that we have the best co-op at the most affordable, reliable electric that we can have in the state of Oklahoma with East Central. On that note, you guys know what's going on in North Mississippi and Nashville. We've alluded to that a little bit tonight. I do want to say a prayer, and I ask you guys to do that because we've got 5 of our linemen down there right now in North Mississippi, helping those people try to get their electric back. And I want them to come home the same way they left, safe and sound. So if you would, please keep the East Central Electric linemen in your prayers until they get back to Oklahoma. Thank you for coming.
Hang
on, we got one question.
I just want to ask, when you purchase power from GMTs, do you get to choose which GMT you purchase from? Can you have them bid?
Jim, do you want to take that or I'll take that? It don't matter.
We're locked in for...
Unfortunately, you have an all requirements contract. So we're like 50 years into an all requirements contract. So you can't just go buy power from somebody else. We have a contract just like all the other electric co-ops and all that. So thank you.